Well, I've hit the 100 subscriber mark, you all put in your votes, and the results led to this. The top 11 disturbing bosses in video gaming. Video game bosses sure have a variety of results, don't they? Some can be funny, some can be epic as hell, while others can lead to the question of, what the hell? These bosses in these countdown are gruesome at the least. They can look hideous, be hard to grasp, or have a very heavy amount of symbolism. And we're here to honor these disturbing bosses. Now this list is going to have bosses from both non-horror and horror genres. And there is one rule in this list. These bosses have to be from games I have played. So don't expect Gygas, Clotho, Nightmare, or Klompa to be on this list, since I've never played any of these games that these bosses were featured in. So sit back, grab some brain bleach, and relax as I introduce to you my top 11 disturbing bosses from both non-horror and horror games. Warning, this boss contains an arachnid-style creature. If you have arachnophobia, you may want to skip this spot. You have been warned. Okay, we finally reached the glade where Sally is being held. Now we can... what's going on? Gah! Yeah, you guys probably expected a spider-like enemy to appear on this list. What do you expect? It's a Halloween-based game. You fight this guy after arriving in the burial chamber to save Sally, and before you have time to tell these lovebirds to get a room, Sally is suddenly tied up and this giant spider comes down in front of Jack, prepared for a battle. The spider doesn't look all that disturbing, but what got it on this list is that when you hit its glowing bump on its ass, it goes underground and it suddenly divides into hundreds of little spiders. You know, I have to ask, just how did this thing manage to do this so quickly? Did it gain magical powers, or did it just shit out hundreds of eggs that hatched right after? Whatever the reason. I only placed this boss at number 11 because this boss fight tends to be more goofy than disturbing, especially when you do the stance section of the fight. It just acts really silly. Although slightly creepy, but not quite enough to get it higher on this list. First off, I want to address something. Coffins. Yes, coffins, just listen. There have been a couple ideas that developers came up with that revolved around a coffin. One example is the Gen 5 Pokemon known as Compagrigus. Another example being... this. That's right, we're talking about a Kingdom Hearts boss. This one is called the Leechgrave, which is literally a coffin attached to a plant-like structure that fights you. You fight this boss during a mission you go on later in Halloween Town, which is the Nightmare Before Christmas world you visit in the game. During the fight, the Leechgrave releases these black claw-like things known as the Tentaclaw, which you have to take out in order to weaken the Leechgrave. From there, you attack the coffin before it regains its strength. If you try to attack it before killing the Tentaclaws, it will release a poisonous gas at you. Why did I put this on the list? Well, I'll admit the plant part does look goofy, but let's just look at the actual coffin. You have a black coffin that's wrapped in chains, is cracked at the top right corner, revealing just one yellow eye, has nails stuck in it, and when the coffin opens, two huge hands come out trying to bitch slap you. Jeez, did Game Freak get the idea for Compagrigus from this guy? However, it's still relatively low at the list because when you look at this boss, it's still a puppy compared to other bosses of this type.
Receive my judgment.
Before any of you complain to me for putting the sequel's Wizeman to the original Sega Saturn Wizeman on this game, I have not owned a Sega Saturn, and I never even heard about the franchise until the sequel came out for the Wii. That aside, Wizeman is not only creepy, but his boss battle is epic. What makes this guy and his fight disturbing, though? Well, first, his design. His head is basically a helmet that has long crooked spikes coming out of it, which never reveals his face. He floats around with just a cape, showing he has no body. And to add more to it, he has 6 floating hands floating around him, all of them having a huge bloody eye on their palms. Aside from his design, his battle theme pretty much says you're in trouble. During his fight, he warps the area around you, such as making it a watery battlefield with tornadoes coming at you, creating a space-like dimension with powerful winds and shooting fireballs, and then taking you to what I think is a thunderstorm with floating rocks while creating clones to distract you. The actual battle isn't all that bad, but it's Wizeman's theme and appearance that makes it on the list. What can I say about Fragile Dreams? It's a nice little game that takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where the main goal is to find real humans. This game's enemies is mainly ghost-like creatures, and there are not really many that disturbing, until you get close to the end of the game. Sai warns you of the next boss, which goes something like this.
What's with this place? It smells funny.
Be careful. There's a whole different breed of enemy hiding around here.
Must be a new species
Different
of
how?
ghosts. After all, that's what we've been fighting.
We've dealt with hazy, shadowy ghosts so far, but this guy's here in the flesh with a
Wait,
taste for
what?
meat.
What are you talking about?
It'll strike from the walls and the ceiling.
Sai,
Keep your ears
what's
open
going
so
on?
you can anticipate its attacks.
I don't like that music. Or that noise. Sweet Jesus! Yes, there is a mole-like thing you have to fight in Fragile Dreams. And boy, does it look ugly. It's like what would happen if you tried to alter the DNA of a mole and give it elephant tusks and give it the size of a fudging tiger. The first note of the boss battle can send shivers down your spine, and it doesn't help that this thing can attack you from the walls and even the ceiling. What made it on this list is the fact that it is a huge slap to the face. All throughout the game, you've been fighting ghosts and supernatural beings, but here, you're fighting a real in-the-flesh monster that's trying to eat you. The surprising change in boss type and the overall atmosphere of this fight is what gets this boss on the list. Good God, Nintendo. You've got balls making this boss. I mean, are you trying to give your younger viewers arachnophobia? Jeez! What makes this girl disturbing is the fact that she starts out as a cute-looking girl who seems harmless, but then right out of nowhere, she starts turning her head until you can literally hear her fudging neck snap as it spins like the Wheel of Fortune wheel until these long black legs come shooting out, giving her the resemblance of a daddy longleg. And it doesn't really help that when you actually fight her, each set of damage she takes, one of those legs snaps off. Is this a kid's game, or did I read the ESRB rating wrong? Just introduce the boss.
Want to join them?
Maybe the acid's lovely.
Yes, I really did put a boss from Clock Tower that is not Scissor Man. But I can't help it. This guy's a freaking nutball. Corroder from Clock Tower 3 may not be as disturbing as the other entries, but it's his creation backstory and what he does in the game that gets him on this list. First off, in the game, we first see a happy and heartwarming scene of a mother and her son.
Albert, what's this?
Winter's coming, and I don't want you catching cold, wandering around outside. I've been making this in my spare time. How is it, warm enough?
It's lovely. So warm and soft. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Jesus! This guy comes right out of nowhere, shoots acid, yes, acid from a hose-like thing he carries, puts the son and mother in a barrel, and pours acid all over them, leaving them be burned by the acid while they're still alive. God, talk about cruel. The fun doesn't stop there, though. The Corroder chases the main protagonist, Alyssa, until you finally fight him with his main weapon being, you guessed it, fudging acid. But here's another thing that adds to his disturbing level. Much like Norm Bates and Leatherface for being based off Ed Gein, who was a killer in real life, Capcom actually based Corroder off a famous British serial killer, John George Hyde, who is also known as the Acid Bath Murderer, a man who killed 9 people, according to John himself, before forging papers to sell their possessions for huge sums of money. And to try and hide his crimes, he dissolved his victims in sulfuric acid, believing that if the bodies could not be recovered, he would not be convicted for murder. But jeez, at least he killed his victims before dissolving them. In the game, he kills them still alive. I'm sorry, but basing a character off someone who actually had the balls to commit such horrible acts in real life adds points to the disturbing level. That's why it gets its spot on the list.
He's ugly! 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 Ugly!
Ugly can pretty much define this asshole in a nutshell. Dr. Steinman from Bioshock is definitely one of the most insane characters in the game. The fight with him isn't all that bad, but it's his backstory and what he does on a daily basis that gives him the spot. This guy used to be a doctor that excelled in plastic surgery. When he came to Rapture and Adam became a hit, he used it to try to improve his medical skills and be able to sculpt flesh with ease. But he had one too many doses of Adam, and it caused his mind to go to hell. He became so obsessed with beauty and the human anatomy that an auto-diary in the game explains that he saw the Greek goddess of beauty, Aphrodite, and wanted to make women as pretty as her, only to fail so many times he lost even more of his sanity. The little speech before you fight him, while I'll give credit to the voice actor for really making it sound emotional, it's still creepy as shit. Let's take a look, shall we?
I do with this one, Aphrodite. She won't stay still. I want to make them beautiful, but they always turn out wrong. That one, too fat. This one, too tall. This one, too symmetrical. And now, what's this goddess? An intruder. He's ugly. 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 Ugly!
Boy, that was close. Managed to shove my wrench up his ass. Well, back to the video. So who's next on the list?
Look out, G! It's a trap!
Oh god, not this dude. Ugh. George from Shadows of the Damned is the first out of several big demons you have to face in the game. I picked this guy for the list because he has two forms, each pretty gruesome. His first form literally bursts out of Paula, who is Garcia's love interest, and eats her limbs. Then he chases you while playing a harmonica that's in his throat, while you have to shoot light barrels to stun him and then shoot his head. This isn't too bad, but when you face him the second time, that's where things start to get ugly. He eats his own heart to turn into this beast-like creature, and then he has a horse that literally poops darkness out. And after you kill the horse, he eats its heart and grows into a giant, then eating the horse itself for a power boost. And then after you shoot his red blood spots, he pisses out darkness, and his intestines come out, I guess that's what it is, and that's what you have to shoot to finish him off. The fact that he takes cannibalism to a new level earns his spot on the list.
Oh, Sister Juliet and Brother Nick, let's travel to the land beyond the doors of perception. Step outside the boundaries of your mind. Lose yourself in the eternal, collective unconscious. And rot.
Listen, lady, why don't you try using some deodorant? Because honestly, you smell like shit.
You ever wonder what would happen if Satan had a daughter that was once a hippie in real life? Well, you got it right here. Mariska from Lollipop Chainsaw is one of the most insane bosses in a Suda 51 game. This battle can also be classified as a mindfuck. It makes you wonder what the developers were smoking when they made this boss. This boss is pretty much a hippie, or represents the punkadelic rock music, but she is nowhere at being peaceful. You can see buses burning in the middle of the battleground. Mariska flips the audience off while saying everlasting peace. She even gives off the peace sign while saying hell. Not to mention, she has a bad stitching job all around her body. During her fight, she uses bubbles to attack you. She ends up duplicating herself after you kill her the first 2 times. And not to mention that in the background, you will sometimes see butterflies that swarm around you, draining your health. That's just... Damn, Suda! You guys love to take risks, don't you? Only number 2? Well, sure. I found one that was more disturbing than this guy, at least in my opinion. But all said, Pyramid Head really is a creepy guy. It's a Silent Hill boss, so what do you expect? Pyramid Head makes his debut in Silent Hill 2, where James goes to find his wife Mary. The first fight with Pyramid Head isn't all that bad. Just shoot him until it's over. Easy, right? But what makes him creepy is what he represents in Silent Hill. We later find out in the game that James killed Mary when she was sick and having no hope of recovering to spare her of even further pain. Pyramid Head, at least in the final battle, we learn that he represents James' Punisher, to punish him for his sins. The fact that his sole purpose of existing is to punish James, and the fact that he wears a pyramid-shaped helmet, never revealing his face, and wielding that huge-ass blade of his, Pyramid Head continues to disturb gamers as the years go by. So what could possibly beat Mariska, Mimi, and the Pyramid Head? Well, you're about to find out. The number 1 disturbing boss on this list is... him.
Hide in your shadow.
Oh, good God, Memories! Just, why? Why was it necessary to make a boss like this? What were the developers thinking while coming up with this idea? The doll maker has got to be one of the most disgusting and disturbing bosses ever to hit the video game history. You fight this bastard on the Nightmare Train as a final boss in Alice Madness Returns. And believe me, not only does this thing look disturbing, but what it's supposed to symbolize just makes you want to grab the nearest plushie and try to retain every last bit of your sanity. How could this abomination be disturbing? Well, let's break it down, shall we? The doll maker has empty eye sockets that ooze black tar-like liquid, which makes up a beard on the chin area, has 2 hands attached to strings, and is just overall disgusting to look at. Oh, but it doesn't end there. Oh no. You want to know what this thing is supposed to symbolize? Well, let me give you some hints. The 2 hands, which both have genders by the way. Yes, I'm not making this up. The left is a boy, the right is a girl. These hands shake their palms around as if they have asses, move in a way that's like hip thrusting, and if they grab Alice, they pinch and grope her. Still having trouble? Well, let's give you a better hint. During the fight, the hands will grab 2 pillars. Pillars? Oh, wait. Those pillars are no ordinary pillars. Oh, no. Those pillars represent Alice's legs. And when the doll maker grabs those pillars and lets out a tongue that makes Klompa's tongue look like a puppy, guess what's that supposed to be? Oral sex. Still haven't guessed yet? Well, basically this battle represents rape. That's exactly what this boss is doing, trying to taunt Alice with sexual desires. I mean, good God, American McGee. I know your games are not exactly kid-friendly, but making a boss that represents rape? I think I just lost some of my sanity from this. I mean, all in all, I know a lot of people would probably put Pyramid Head at number 1, but when a boss uses a strong amount of symbolism that connects to rape, probably one of the most unbearable experiences to ever have, that alone gives it the number 1 spot on this list. I'm Miss Game Craze, and now if you'll excuse me, I gotta go buy some brain bleach.